What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I've made quite a few videos of my cars over the years, starting with my Del Sol, my first car, then my Civic, then the Soarer, then the LS400, then the NSX, and then the Century. But the most challenging car that I have ever built throughout my time on YouTube and my time as a car enthusiast in general has been my 1995 Toyota Supra. This is a car that I have wanted for a very long time, and when I got my hands on one in 2021, I had a vision and a direction that I wanted to go with it, but not necessarily the proper knowledge on how to do it. Over the course of me owning my Supra, it has taught me so much, way more than any other car that I have built. And that's because it pushed me and challenged me to learn new things that I had never learned before. Now, before we dive into this video, I want to make a quick mention that the new Century t-shirts have gone live on the website. You guys saw them in the last video. They are by far the best t-shirts that I have ever made. With an embroidered front, I have a custom Century emblem sleeve tag, and of course, the triple design on the back with the Century three-piece wheel, and of course the signature Low Cars High Standards style. To add to the collection of the LS400 design, the NSX design, now we have the Century design. These just went live on my website right now, so head to the link in the top of the description, pick one up before they're gone. These blanks are extremely high quality, slightly baggier fit, true black color. They're not gonna fade over time like my pants, which are friggin' blue now. You guys get the point. Shop below, click the link, pick up a tee, and thank you guys. Enough about the Century, let's go get the Supra. Oh, that was easy. Not really, we actually had to go get the car, but that's in this video. The Supra is one of Japan's most iconic sports cars ever made, and because of that, I needed this car to be as perfect as I could make it, to a standard that I was happy with, and to try something new and out of my realm. A lot of people know me for making aesthetically pleasing cars. However, I don't really make a lot of fast cars. But with the Supra, not only did it need to look good, but it needed to be fast as well, which is definitely out of my wheelhouse. Over the years, I've been trying to learn how to properly build a fast car, and I tried to do that with my Soarer when I had that car previously, but I didn't end up getting around to it before I sold it. And the whole reason why I sold that car, A, was so that I could buy my NSX, and B, I already had the Supra, and the Soarer is just kind of a gentleman's version of the Supra, so I didn't need two. If you guys haven't tuned into any of the videos I've made previously building this Supra up, I will leave a link in the description to a playlist that you can follow along with and watch the journey of this car before I got to my final stage. And my final stage was getting this, I got this car about 90% of the way finished, and the car event season started. I ran out of time to be able to dedicate to this thing, so I took the car down to my good friend Roberto at Rav Performance down in West Palm Beach, Florida, and he was able to button up the car, get the last 10% finished, dialed in to my standard, actually past my standard, honestly. He absolutely killed it. His whole team knocked it out of the park, and I could not be happier with this thing. When I was in Canada 2 weeks ago for the LZ World Tour, I got a text from Roberto and a couple dyno clips of this car getting dynoed. He said that the car is ready to go, so when I got back, me and Sam hopped in the car, took the 3-hour drive down to West Palm Beach to pick the car up, check it out for the first time, and this is the footage.
Where are we going, Michael?
We're going to get the Supra.
Are you excited?
Yeah, buddy.
How long has it been in the shop?
5 months.
And then your shop?
Year and a half.
So 2 months? Every 2 years?
It's been a long time, yeah.
Yoki, are you ready to go get the Supra? Yeah, let's go. The light is making you glow, baby. Oh, never mind.
What's that? What is that? Huh? Okay. Why are you tilting your head, bud?
Excuse you. All right, so we're like 10 minutes away from Rav Performance, Roberto's shop. Anticipation is definitely, I'm feeling it now. Like the rest of the drive, like, was just a drive. Now my gut is like, holy shit, I'm gonna go get my car. See it for the first time, hear it for the first time. I've heard it on like video, but not in person. We get to go over everything that Roberto did and get to give a nice walk around and see how everything goes. Might test drive it a little bit. Obviously I'm gonna drive it back, but this is exciting. It has a black hood on it right now because I forgot my hood when I first brought it down. So aside from that, when I get the car back, I'll swap my hood, but this is it. Hello. Oh, okay. That's okay. God. This is crazy. You definitely outdid yourself on this one.
I tried.
I fucking love the hard lines, dude.
Well, you had a vibe going.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see what I could do to kind of keep that vibe going. I had an idea of what your intention was.
Yeah.
And then I just...
You definitely kept the vibe. And I love the hard line setups, everything, everywhere.
And that's just something now we pretty much do standard.
Yeah.
My rule is if I see the issue enough times, I just kind of stop doing it that way.
Yeah. It's so weird to just see the interior back together and everything, and not an automatic shifter in the center.
Yeah, I wish you would have found something for the transmission. That's like the one flaw the car has. It's really lame to like have that floppy shifter, but so that's the battery setup.
Yeah, so he was going over this with me. Every modification that he did, he checked with me first, wanted to make sure it was cool, good to go. I knew I wanted to do a battery relocation, but I didn't have like the kit or the tools or the brains on how to do it properly, so he knocked it out of the park. He used an Odyssey battery and then set it up on a relay system, right?
It's not a relay, it's just a circuit breaker.
Okay, circuit breaker.
Yeah, it does two things. So one, it's a circuit breaker, and two, like let's say you're going to park the car for a couple weeks, you're going out of town, and you don't feel like you just, boop, battery's disconnected.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about that dying or doing anything weird, and then come back.
Amazing.
And then for the fuel pump, so obviously it's a Detroit pump in there.
Yeah.
So we just hijacked the factory wiring. We add a relay and a fuse. It's going to have nice clean power coming from the battery, and then the relay. If you're familiar, you're familiar with Supras and Sorters now.
Yep.
Right, where like once you bypass the factory fuel pump module, the pump just stays on constantly.
Yep.
So that drains your battery and it sucks. And
I dealt with that with my Soarer when I bypassed that.
Right. So this one has been actually wired to the ECU.
Oh, okay.
So you have 3-4 seconds of prime time. After that, that's it. Until you start the engine, it's not running the pump anymore. So the ECU has full control of the pump. So it's a car. It's not like like I said, when you bypass it and then you turn the key on.
It works like it should.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love the fact, so like they're not afraid to just like make their own custom brackets, just like Johan is, and everyone at the compound. Like they just, if they can think of something, they just do it, and it always comes out really, really well.
It doesn't always come out really well. Sometimes you have to make it 3 or 4 times, but we make sure the finished product looks good.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, for sure. This is crazy. I've seen so many pictures and videos of the engine bay and everything, but to see it in person and like to see what I wanted done like and executed perfectly, and then some, because of all of the crazy custom hardline setups and everything. Like this is amazing. Quick, easy tuning access.
Yeah.
Nice little stealthy Link Fury hiding under there. Made a custom RAV plate mounted back there, all the way in the back, right where the stock ECU goes. USB cable right at your fingertips. That's awesome. For some reason, I feel like my seats were blue as shit. I know that just comes from like age, but
That also happens when you don't see a car for a while.
Yeah. It's been like incredibly long since this engine, like interior, has been back together. So to see it back together and look like, I remember this dash plate looking worse. I don't know how it magically looks better. I think that's just from my brain forgetting what this car is like. This plate is new. The shift boot and shift knob and shifter is new. Obviously we switched to the V160 transmission for this car, factory 6-speed. Yeah, this is so cool. Brand new shift knob. This is nostalgic AF. Does it still have the, it still has the thing. I might be able to play music.
The dongle.
The dongle. My staticky ass dongle. So, because this car was auto and we switched to manual, one of my favorite little things when I go to swap the cluster, it's not gonna fuck with my odometer reading, because the odometer reading isn't on here. It's actually a digital display up here that's separate. So when I get the manual cluster, the TRD cluster, or whatever I decide to do, it'll just get swapped out there and not fuck with my miles, my numbers. Because this is a street car and not something that needs to be checked all the time, Roberto did a closed loop setup for the oil catch can, ran it through here. This is the breather, right?
That's the breather, yep.
Goes back to the intake, and then there's actually a smaller AN line that runs back down to the oil pan, and keeps this entire setup closed loop. So there's not going to be any smoke. It's at the front so that it's not going to gravitate and pull oil back out of.
Yep. And you don't get like,
right?
you have like a filter here. It's like you're gonna have crankcase pressure coming out, so that over time just gives you like an oily sheen through the whole engine bay.
Yep.
So it's impossible to keep clean.
Yep.
This method, not only is it dramatically cleaner because it's all being sucked in via in front of the filter,
right,
or behind the filter, I should say. Also because of that location, when your engine is spooling, it's actually causing negative pressure. So what you're doing is you're actually decreasing your potential crankcase pressure.
Okay.
Which, you know, you're splitting hairs, but it does make a little more power.
Right.
You know, it's a little bit. It's you know, every OEM uses the PCV system. You know, there's a reason why.
In terms of the power steering stuff, I know when I was trying to work on this at our shop, I was trying to use like a stock twin turbo catch can for the power steering and everything. That didn't work. We ended up going with PHR for that. We also ditched the clutch fan setup because the NA clutch fan was way too big and was hitting everything. So you did SPAL E-fans?
Yeah, so that's actually a PHR kit.
Okay.
So they are SPAL fans.
Yeah.
But that's the off-the-shelf PHR kit.
Okay.
It's a really good kit.
Yeah.
It comes with the shroud, fans, and it comes with a heavy-duty relay.
Yeah.
It's actually, let me tell you what that is now before it. So
Didn't
it's
you
tucked
mention
away.
those were BMW relays?
Yeah, they're BMW. They're BMW starter relays.
That's sick.
And they just shave off the BMW and put a little PHR sticker on it.
That's
whatever.
funny.
It's a cool little idea that we came up with. This line, we always make it out of metal now.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times that you open up a Supra engine bay and the one line is burnt up.
Yep.
So that's a.
I can think of a few cars right off the bat that have that.
And then this
That's
guy,
funny.
we do this now. We've had way too many harness issues. That has been a thing. It's not necessarily burned through the harnesses.
Yeah.
But if you're using like a mil-spec harness or anything like that with like the Raycom sealing on it, it's fine. But anytime you have like a harness with like just a simple braid, like a wiring specialties or tweaked, if you run them like that, you're gonna heat them up. It's just part of it.
You'll see the casing get like glossy and like mushy.
Then it gets
and
mushy. Yeah, it's hard.
Yep.
And then worst case scenario, it will actually melt, and then you see exposed wires.
Yeah.
And not only is it a fire hazard, you know, but it looks horrible.
Right. Originally, I had just like a floppy, floppy clutch braided line, whatever. Transitions to a hard line, sneaky, right with the harness here, straight to the turbo. That's fucking sick. I love that.
Monumental moment.
Yeah.
It's time. We're gonna give it a little test drive. I don't know. Feel this thing for the first time. I've never had a car faster than like 295 horsepower, so this is double that. So this will be fun. What does it have in it right
miles out. It's on the fat side, and the timing's not even close to really what it could be. We do that because, like I told you, that alternator issue. Yeah. You know, so once you get that resolved, right now it's slightly fudged in the direction of making up for that. Okay. But it's still within a good realm. So assuming nothing changes, it's fine. Right. But when you do get the alternator where it needs to be, right, then shove everything back where it was before. Give it a little more. There's another like 40-50 horsepower in there. Just tuning that we just can't do because I don't feel comfortable with, you know, giving you a car back that's running at 11.8 volts at the wire with the throttle. Yeah. You know.
That's definitely faster than anything I've ever had before. That's crazy. I really, really like it. I can't wait for you to feel it. Yeah, it's definitely quicker than anything I've ever had so far, and it feels amazing. It sounds amazing. It's got a little bit of rattlies to it, but that's because I forgot to order the seal that goes under the shifter. So once I order that, it'll kind of quiet down the interior a little bit, but the thing feels friggin' amazing. So back a few months ago when I dropped the Supra off to Roberto, he was at his old shop, and throughout the process of him building the car, he actually transferred shops, and this is his new one. It is beautiful. The space is huge. The cars in here are obviously built to a crazy spec. This 33 looks phenomenal. You said that this car was basically stock when it came in? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
we just do this stuff now, so we're not really a shop anymore. Mm-hmm. Like we used to be considered like a mechanic shop that did performance. Now we're not anymore. So now we're just fully private. Yeah. We only do stuff like this. You know, that's it.
Specialty work.
Yeah, you can't call us for brake jobs or clutch jobs or anything like that. It's just very specialty niche stuff like this. Mm-hmm. You know, this is just what we like to do and what we're set up to do. Right. So this is all we do.
Exactly. Well, it looks phenomenal. Everything on here, beautiful stuff. Got my twin over here. This thing is really cool.
Came from Japan with like a single turbo and some other stuff. The owner wanted to keep it kind of like modernize it, but still keep it kind of like how it looked. So like we put a modern G-Series turbo on. Okay. But we kept and modified the Greddy intake that it came with. You know, stuff like that.
The old school filter, stuff like that.
You know, just made everything more modern. You know, kept the battery in the front. We kept the GT intake manifold, you know, added like the billet, what's it called, the billet throttle body, and then obviously did the full Wiggins clamps. Modernize it, but still keep it like, you know, somewhat like what it was when it came in, which was this like probably like 2005, 2006, like Japan single turbo build.
All right, well, I'm gonna head out here. We got a 3-hour drive back to the compound. Roberto, thank you once again. You absolutely, every single like update that you sent me with every little bit that you were doing, I was just like this much more stoked.
So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way for us to keep ourselves organized, customer updated.
Right.
And then like just go back and be able to be like, we did this, we did that. It's just easy, everybody's happy. Yep. And the results are nice because you get to just, you know, slice and dice it all the way through it. Mm-hmm. Just, you know, always have like a nice uniform product at the end.
Yeah. So if you guys ever need any specialty custom work on any of your Supras or
next year, because we're booked.
Next year, he's booked out. He's a busy guy, which is good. But if you're a Skyline Supra owner and you need any specialty work done, hit up Roberto. I'll leave the links in the description. Instagram's on the screen, everything like that. And it was cool to check out the new shop. But yeah, we gotta drive on back. Well, 2 hours later, about to pull into the compound. Car made it the 2-hour drive back flawlessly, no issues at all. It's running very rich right now because we still have some tuning to do and some other stuff to play with. So we use like 3/4 of a tank of gas just to get back, but it's not that bad. The car is on flex fuel, so with the E85 mix, it probably drank a little more because of that. So either way, car feels amazing. It's definitely a little loud in here because of not having the seals around the transmission tunnel, but I'm gonna get that ordered and fix that very quick. So that's my only complaint so far, and I'm loving this thing. All right, so we got the Supra back to the compound, and this thing definitely needs a thorough car wash. So I'm going to give this thing a really solid once over on everything. The car got left outside a couple times, so it's got a little bit of mildew on the bumpers, just like leaves and dirt and stuff, but it should all come off pretty easily. So I'm gonna give this thing a much deserved wash so that we can do a proper little shoot. This stuff is definitely a little harder to get off than I anticipated. Pressure washer took it off a tiny bit, but I'm gonna try some iron remover and some tar remover and clay bar, see if I can get this stuff out. But just kind of went over the entire car with water just to get anything loose off. Now I'm gonna hit it with the foam cannon and actually scrub this thing down probably a few times, just because she deserves it. Just rinse the car off and actually hit the entire thing with iron remover and letting that soak in. I'll put some video over the screen. You can see the little purple bits kind of falling off the car everywhere, especially bad in the gas cap area and on the front and rear bumpers. Still trying to get this mildew off of the trunk. I think the track spray from Griot's is actually working the best. That's speed shine. I don't know why I pointed to that. Where it is. There it is. I used that on just this little test corner here, and it seemed to do the trick on this spot. So I'm gonna try that for the rest of it. But for now, I'm just letting this all soak in, and hopefully we can remove some of the schmeg that's all over this. Seeing this car clean again, it reminds me of when I first got this thing, when I first put the BCs on, when I first put the Meisters on, was daily driving this thing everywhere, having a ton of fun, even though it was NA, it was automatic, didn't make any power. It's just such a clean car. And I remember before I dove into building this car, I did a like pre-walk around clip of the whole thing, showing off the way that it used to be so that I could reference the way it is now. So let's watch that clip. I don't think I've ever given a walk around of this car since like the first day that I got it, but it's the thing. Interior is very nice. Very clean car. Very happy with it. Really no dents. Couple little tiny minor ones, but rear's like mint. Whole car is pretty mint. Like the wheels. Not a huge fan of the tires anymore. Probably swap the tires for something else. They rub in the back and they're really noisy on the street. I'll pop the hood. I don't think I've ever shown the engine bay, but let me shut this thing off too. The only thing is that this thing has like a rear main seal leak, pretty bad. She's always a little stinky, but keep her topped off. That's what that's for. Engine bay. Not really a whole lot to see in here, but the bones are good. The bones are there. Yeah, my main task is gonna be taking every single thing out of this car, painting it, tucking the wires, full GTE setup, single turbo, bulletproof this engine so that I can make, I don't know, 800, 900 horsepower in the future. But right now I'm just looking to make like 450, 500. basically 2 years of this car being on jack stands, getting worked on. This thing is finally finished. Not necessarily finished, I would say. There's still some things that I need to do to this car, a couple tuning things, a couple upgrades, but for the most part, it's finished. And I'm gonna give you guys a little bit more in-depth detail walk around of everything that I did, as well as Roberto did in the engine bay, interior, all the mods that I added to it. Which reminds me, if you guys want to see a video in the future of basically like a cost breakdown of what it took for me to build this car, let me know. I feel like that could be something kind of interesting to touch on. But anyways, let's dive in. Starting off with the interior, everything pretty much stock still. The only thing that we had to change was the manual shift bezel and the obvious shift boot, shift knob, everything like that. All of that got swapped out. I got that stuff from Granus Racing. Because the car used to be automatic, we manual swapped it. I used all OEM parts. So in here, there is a manual Mark IV clutch pedal, all bolted up, works beautifully. The rest of the interior, still absolutely completely stock, which honestly is kind of how I like it. I do plan in the future to upgrade the steering wheel, get rid of this pre-TRD style, sport style steering wheel, because this is pretty much what comes in a Corolla. But anyways, let's get to the most important part, everything that's under the hood of this car, because it's beautiful and it made me broke. All right, right off the bat, first thing I'm going to point out is the headlights. They are yellow again, just over time the plastic faded. I'm going to end up swapping these out for brand new Series 1 headlights. Keep it original, you know? My taillights are still in really, really good shape. They're not faded or anything, so I don't have to swap those out. But definitely get some new headlights. You can see they're all pitted and got some yellow rust showing in there. That no bueno, no bueno. Anyways, engine bay. Every single square inch of this engine bay has been touched, restored, upgraded. For those of you that followed along on my channel with me building this car, we got this car to the point where the intercooler setup was in, manifolds were on, engine was in, pulleys were on, booster was in, harness was installed but not completely plugged in because I was missing a couple connectors. I partially had the turbo oil and water lines ran, but I wasn't too confident on them. And that's to the point where I sent the car down to Roberto to get the finishing touches, the last 10% buttoned up. The biggest task that he had to do was finish the manual swap. Obviously there's multiple options out there for transmissions for this car, but I wanted to keep it factory. So I pulled out my credit card, bought a V160 for this thing off of Adam. So the car has a factory manual 6-speed transmission in it. Feels amazing, shifts amazing. We have the Action Stage 5 6-puck clutch in there, which also feels amazing. It's taking me a little bit getting used to just because I'm used to how the NSX is driving. This clutch is definitely a little grabbier, but that's okay. Next up, I think I'll go over all of the water lines and lines that they made. I think that's probably my favorite part about this build is the hardline setups that Roberto created. He's a huge fan of hardline setups because he knows that they're not going to burst, they're not going to burn, they're not going to leak, which he mentioned when we went to pick this car up. But over the build process, he was sending me photos of everything that he was doing, and it was just super cool to watch. He's got hard lines for the wastegate setup. He's got hard lines for the breather tubes on the valve cover that go to the catch can. He's got catch can hard lines that go back to the intake. All the oil and water lines for the turbo system are all made by hard lines. It's just super cool. And he made them all symmetrical so that they flow in the engine bay properly. They just kind of add to the aesthetic of everything. They match the AC hard lines following down here. It's just a very tasteful thing that I think he did. He gets a lot of points for that. I think that was a very, very cool touch. When I had this car here, I had my clutch fan set up from when this car was NA installed, but that shit did not work at all. So what we did, or what Roberto did, was swap out the clutch fan for a PHR setup, and it uses Spall E-fans. You guys saw me touch on this briefly when we picked the car up, but they are absolute beasts. I don't think this thing's gonna overheat anytime soon. I love that it gave me a little bit more room in the front of the engine bay and everything too. Super high quality stuff. Matches the coil rad radiator very well. He even threw in an HKS coolant cap for me. For the power steering setup, obviously we have all of the Titan pulleys and the super damper. I installed those back before I dropped the car off. But for the power steering stuff, I was kind of at a loss. we ended up going with PHR once again. We got their power steering reservoir, their power steering bung down here. Before I sent the car off, I installed all the injectors and the fuel rail on the Plasma Man intake manifold, but he was able to finish that up, get everything nice and tight, and even did a oil filter relocation kit using HKS oil filters, because face it, it's just a pain in the ass to get to these oil filters on this car. They get oil everywhere. It's much easier to just grab it from here. I'm a big fan of that. Got a few relays down here and in the wheel well for the fan setup. Another thing that he did was we ditched the rubber coupler that we had on the intake, and he made his own downpipe, kind of intake downpipe for the manifold, which I think looks much better. It's not going to pop off. Uses Plasma Man clamps. I might swap the clamps and stuff out for Vibrant in the very near future, but for now this works perfect. This is very cool. This is a maintenance-less oil catch can system. All of the oil from crankcase pressure runs to here. There's a tiny little bung down there that runs back into the oil pan, so everything flows. It's not in the back of the engine bay, so when you do a pull, it's not going to force oil into the catch can. It's nice up front. 2Js aren't really known for creating a bunch of oil in their catch can setups, but to have it at the front and know that it's maintenance-less is just super nice. I can drive this thing forever, not have to worry about changing anything out. Batteries obviously relocated to the trunk. You guys saw that when we picked the car up. Now in terms of horsepower numbers, I'll put the dyno video on the screen. As well as pictures of the graph. This car ended up making 530 wheel horsepower, I believe, on E85 before we unfortunately ran out of fuel pump. Now I have a DW400 in the tank, which is more than capable of making 670 plus horsepower on E85. The problem right now is that the car's not making enough voltage to supply the fuel pump, because I still have the stock alternator on here, and I think that this is actually the NA alternator, so it's not pushing enough amps to be able to keep the fuel pump at its top end and deliver me all the power that I want. So right now the car is making 530 horsepower on E85 and I believe 450 horsepower on 93. The car's also on flex fuel, so I can throw mixtures in there. It's not that big of a deal. I had to do that on the drive back. I was just putting 93 in the car. Drove fine, no issues, but I'm definitely going to upgrade the alternator in the near future. Get this thing around the 600, 650 range on E85. But yeah, man, this is such a crazy feeling, and being able to be a part of the build for 90% of it and see this thing transform is just insane. I watched that little clip back of me walking around the car a year and a half ago and popping the hood and seeing the NA setup and this car just kind of completely untouched, and it's just wild to see how far this thing has come. The engine bay setup is a work of art. Everything in here is top notch. I fucking love this setup so much. It feels amazing. It's super fast, super responsive. The turbo spool is super quick. The only downside right now is that I obviously can't max out the power, and I also still have the automatic diff set up in the back. So cruising speed at the highway is around 4,000 RPM, and this thing is just kind of screaming the whole time. Eventually I'll swap that stuff out, either swap out the gears inside of the diff or just swap the entire diff setup. But Supra owners, you guys know that shit's very expensive. So I'll enjoy the car the way it is for now for a little bit. The only things that I'm gonna be doing to this thing soon is probably the headlights. Put some different shifter bushings in the shifter, and obviously get a seal for under the setup in the center console, just because this thing, when you're driving, you can hear the trans and you can hear everything. It's very loud, so I definitely want to get a seal under the shift boot just to quiet things down in the cabin. Swap out the shifter bushings because I have solid ones in there right now, and then this thing is ready to go. Let me know what kind of content you guys want to see with this car now that I have it back. I figured this was a good introduction video to bring the car back to the channel, bring the car back to life. And I'm still friggin' debating whether I get my wing painted and mount it, or if I leave this thing wingless. It's like the hardest fucking debate that I've had with this car since I've owned it. I hate Supras without wings, but for some reason this one does not look that bad now that it especially has a nice exhaust and everything on it in the back. But again, I feel like it needs the wing. So like I'm so torn. Leave a comment down below if you guys think I should paint the wing, put it on. It's one of those commitment things. Once you drill the holes, you can't really go back. So I'm like 75% chance going to do it. There's just a little part of me that's still talking me out of it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't yet, hop to the link in the description and pick up one of these Century t-shirts. They are the best t-shirts that I have ever made. And if they do well enough, I'm gonna release hoodies as well with the same embroidery, same sleeve tag, same quality. It's gonna be amazing. I appreciate you guys' support as always, and it feels unreal to have this car back in my life. I can't wait to enjoy this thing more. I can't wait to make more videos of it with you guys. Leave a like on this video, and I will see you in the next one.